I'm Jared Basler of Casita Coalition, Policy Director. Casita Coalition, for those of you who don't know, is a multi-sector nonprofit that's focused on removing barriers to production of small housing and middle housing across California and beyond. Michael, I'll kick it over to you so that you can give us an intro on what you guys are doing over there at HCD.
So HCD founded or really started in enforcing the Housing Accountability Act by forming the Housing Accountability Unit in 2021. The accessory dwelling unit team was formed then. It was basically one person. It has now grown to more than 7 of us, and we are recruiting for more positions. That's principally because we review ADU ordinances for compliance with state law. That's where our main authority is. A second part, or our secondary mission, is to provide technical assistance to advocacy groups, members of the public, and especially local jurisdictions. And we also field complaints and attempt to settle those where we can and provide guidance on state ADU laws.
The data tool that I would like to present on today is called the Housing Element Implementation and APR Data Dashboard. APR stands for Annual Progress Report. The Annual Progress Report is a report that cities and counties are required to complete every year, and it is a report on the implementation of their housing element. So the report is very comprehensive. There's a lot of different components to it, but one component and the data that we will look at today is data related to housing production. We have, the first page contains an overview and just some information on the data sources. Like I mentioned, the data source is the Housing Element Annual Progress Report, which is essentially a giant Excel workbook. So if we go to the key figures page, we can see data that was reported in this case 2022. If you look at the dashboard, you'll see a variety of different filters at the top. And if you, so we can see the year filter is currently selected as 2022. That's the most recent year. And if we select structure type, we can filter the data by, all the different structure types that we collect information on. So if we click on accessory dwelling units, we can see that, almost 30,000 applications for ADUs were submitted in 2022. We can see 8,600 were reported as being entitled. 26,538 building permits were issued for ADUs, and then 17,243 of those ADUs were issued certificates of occupancy. And then the units are also reported at different income levels. We can see that, the number broken down by 4 different income categories that we collect data on.
Hey, Tom, just really quick, a question on that. On the income levels, those are based off of how cities are reporting what they're counting in their housing elements, correct? So that's not necessarily each city varies in how they calculate those, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Our APR instructions do state that the affordability must be determined based on actual or anticipated rents or sales prices. Local governments have a variety of different ways or methodologies that they may use in order to determine those rents or sales prices, and then assign the appropriate affordability category to that unit. So yeah, it is a figure that's determined by the local government. We can filter by structure type. We can also filter by jurisdiction, region, or county. So if we're interested in a particular smaller geography right now, we're seeing the statewide figures. But if I was interested in, let's say, Alameda County, I could click on that jurisdiction. This would actually be the unincorporated Alameda County. We could see the figures for them. So we have data for almost the entire state. If a jurisdiction did not submit the report to us, then obviously we don't have the data for them, and they would be not. They would essentially have blanks in these cells here. We have a variety of other different data points that we're tracking as well. So we are tracking the housing development timelines. So the time it takes for projects to go from being submitted to being entitled to permitted, and being permitted to completed. Again, you can filter by accessory dwelling unit. So you can see sort of development timelines. This is right now, it's showing time for from the building permit being issued to the certificate of occupancy being issued. And you can see jurisdictions that take the longest to go from one stage to the next. That could be due to any number of factors, but right now we're just showing what the average development timeline is for that to take. We have this is sort of also getting at the income category data, but again, you can view production by income category for different stages of development. So you can see, for ADUs being completed, obviously, Los Angeles is number one on the list, followed by, in this case, Long Beach, San Diego, Santa Maria. So just visualizing the data by different, by jurisdiction, by tenure, and so forth.
Well, and Tom, if you go back to that, just back to the income one, this is why I was asking about how cities calculate that, because clearly places like Santa Maria are showing that all of their ADUs are low income. San Diego showing that there's none that are low income, when it's really based on how they filled out their housing element and how they determined, or whether they decided to determine affordability levels in a way that satisfies it with you guys, and in the reporting back to you, so that it's while this is definitely a great tool to kind of get some high level understanding, I would say also it's not necessarily representative of every of affordability on a larger scale.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, it's, ultimately this APR is completed by, a local staff member that, basically does their best to fulfill the reporting requirements. It uses the data that, they have available to them. If I was interested in Santa Maria, I could click on them and I could see, okay, wow, they reported everything as low income. I can go up here and view the data. This would take me to the, raw data they reported on the APR. Looks like, a lot of garage conversions. Yep. I could scroll over to the affordability description and I can read what they wrote. So it looks like, they did a survey, it looks like. So they're using data from their survey to inform the affordability description. So, I can go into more detail there. So some of the other data we have is, we have maps. So we did do our best to map as much of the data as we can. So if I click again on accessory dwelling unit as the unit type. So I can see the individual units that were reported geocoded based on the project address. This helps to kind of, this actually performs a little better if you select a smaller region. You can really zoom in and, take a look at, all the individual latitude and longitude coordinates of all the ADUs that we were able to map. We weren't able, not able to map everything, but to the extent that we could, we did. And then finally, we have data on sort of trends over time on building. This is only building permits. So again, if I select accessory dwelling unit here, you can really see the increase in the amount of building permits over the past 5-6 years. And 2022, highest year thus far. So obviously the production of ADUs is really ramped up due to, loosening of state laws plus other, market trends and things that would encourage and facilitate ADU production.
And just out of curiosity, do you have all of the jurisdictions reported for 2022 yet, or are you guys still waiting for more to come in?
No, we're still waiting for more. We've never had a year where every jurisdiction has completed the APR. So if we go to the implementation page, and here's where we can actually view the APR submission. So for 2022, we have 484 APRs in our database. I believe we have a number, maybe 10 or 12 that are currently being reviewed. So we're almost at 500, but not quite. And short of where we, what we've gotten the past few years. Hopefully we can get up to that 518, 519 number again for 2022.
What I really like about this dashboard is that it's fairly intuitive as far as like what you're looking at. So it helps for whether it's industry professionals, people that are that are interested in this data. It's really helpful. Again, don't download the whole Excel sheet, that's going to crash your computer. But the dashboard you created is fantastic for helping really visualize the data. I'd also say one thing as we wrap up, I think as I have actually looked at this and looked at both the numbers over the years, because this is something that has been we've always had kind of trust issues with the numbers that cities are putting out there. And it's not just on the high side, it's also on the low side. I've seen, for a while I was tracking the raw data, permit data for City of San Diego, and, really realized that they were underreporting the number of units that had been created and permitted and finalized. And so for industry professionals, I would definitely encourage those of you who are watching this to hop on here and just look at some of your previous projects, make sure they're on here, because you can zoom in really granularly into the data. And so it's something, just, make sure that, your city's actually reporting the units that are being created. And I think it's a great tool you guys have put together. Any last kind of like things on here that you think is important for people to take a look at?
I would just with the last page here, we have a report on all of the housing element programs that jurisdictions have committed to doing or implementing in their housing element. Really, you can search through these by doing sort of a simple text search. So, if you wanted to see if they had any programs with, ADU, and then you could type in ADU there, might make more sense to narrow this to a particular jurisdiction that you might be interested in, but just easy way of kind of looking up what they've reported in their APR as far as implementing their housing element programs. We do have the raw data available for you on the California Open Data Portal. So if you're actually interested in obtaining the raw data, that's out there too.
And last kind of question on this, is there a way to export the data from the dashboard itself?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's not.
So screenshots, I guess, is what we're back to now.
It's kind of what you're limited to with regards to this, but yeah, again, that the raw data is there. So if you wanted to kind of parse through that, you could do that.